On everybody, back again with another episode of Let's Talk About It. We got a special one today. The topic is going to be, should you discipline your child? Should you physically discipline them, or if you shouldn't? It's going to be a sad one today, a fun one. It's my last episode. So I hope you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna miss y'all. Y'all see the face off. I'm getting ready to go into the Navy, so y'all pray for me, wish me luck. But without further ado, let's hop into it. When it comes to child discipline, me personally, I believe in disciplining your child. I think that you should whip your kids. Of course, I believe in effectively communicating with your kid. You know what I'm saying? Everything doesn't deserve a whooping. Like if you drop something on the floor, I'm going to tell you, hey, next time hold it with two hands so that way you don't drop it. But I also feel as a parent, there are certain things that you don't talk to your child about.
Like what?
Yeah, you gotta give an example of that one, brother.
If I find out my kid stole something, you think I'm about to talk to him about stealing, tell him that he shouldn't be a thief?
You should, yeah. I think that's the first step.
I don't understand what you're saying.
After you beat him.
Okay, but basically,
After you beat him.
when they cross a line, there is a time where a child should be disciplined.
Mm.
Oh, so you mean like less talk and more action?
No, not that at all. I thought it was implied that you would still communicate with your child what they did wrong.
You said word for word. There are some things I won't talk about.
I feel like you need to do both. Like, don't just after you beat them, explain why you just beat them. Like,
no, I feel like you should explain before beating them.
Yeah, either multiple times, and if the problem is not fixed by words, that's when you should bring in the action. I think that, especially when dealing with children in our community, we kind of think of discipline as this thing where you can just whoop somebody to teach them a lesson. But there are plenty of healthy examples of children who exist who weren't, whooped as a child. So it really just depends. I definitely think that it's a skill that can be used, and if used appropriately, it is an appropriate means to an end. But I think it also should be a means to an end. Like, you shouldn't be, whooping your child at 17, 18. Like, after they're no longer a child, I don't think that you should be putting your hands on them, because that borderline turns into trauma.
Before we go down this big rabbit hole, the first question: who grown up getting a whooping, man? Who grown up and getting a whooping? Put your hand up if you grown up getting a whooping.
Everybody. I don't know why y'all acting like
everybody.
I'm talking about you was about 13.
Okay, to 13, but that's where I'm like tapped out.
That's when
after 8th grade it kind of stopped. But
yeah, I would say once I was older, it was done.
It was done, and that's why I said that before we just keep going, because we're talking about how, if I had a kid, those are all hypotheticals. We've been whooped. We've been in that situation. Why did you get whooped? What was the reasoning behind it?
If you have a kid, right, and you take something away from them and they're like, okay, they understand that consequence. But if you have kids that's like, okay, I'm gonna get it back, they don't care about that, then you're gonna have to get whooped. Like, I was that kid. Like, I knew I was gonna get my stuff right back, do whatever I was gonna do again. So I had to get whooped. Like, that's the only reason why I listened, getting whooped.
Yeah.
Do you think if you wouldn't have got it right back, and if your parents would have kept your stuff from you until you learned your lesson, and it wasn't something where it was like, you have a week and then you're right back to doing whatever? Like, I mean, I'm pretty sure we've all been put on punishment before. So do you think that, like, maybe if you didn't have that opportunity to retrieve and get your stuff without learning your lesson, that might have worked for you? Or do you think that's...
Yeah, like, most of the time I just got my phone taken away or little stuff like that, but I always would know, like, my parents would give it right back to me. That's why it never really worked. But I feel like if they took it longer, then it probably would have worked better.
I've been put on punishment and I've been whooped. I've been on punishment for like 2 months at one point.
I mean, it depends like what y'all mean by like whooping and beating, like getting a belt hitting on the butt, or like...
My dad, okay, so I remember one time, not for my dad business out there, but like I remember my brother was fighting in the back seat or whatever. He's like, okay, wait till we get home, because he kept telling us to stop. And he said, go upstairs, go over the
That
bed.
go
He
upstairs.
said, go upstairs, lay over the bed, and wait for me to get in there. And then we would just get whooped, and then it'd be over.
I ain't gonna lie. I feel like every Detroit dad do that, because I swear to God, my dad used to do this.
Yes, like, just go ahead.
Teacher conferences.
Nah, bro, you already know.
Oh, the parent-teacher conference, I always had to
bro.
show up. So I felt like the teacher wouldn't say as many bad things if I was there, and it did work because they weren't bold enough to say it, like, you know, in front of the child. That one time I didn't go.
You know, like, my mom a teacher, so she never came to my parent-teacher conference. She was always at them.
Oh, shoot.
My mom's definitely was there, and my teachers definitely capped on me. And I had this
My
thing where
teachers
I
did
was growing up, I wasn't really able to like voice myself when I got frustrated.
Mhm.
So like I would just watch them cap, and I'd just be like,
Nah, whenever my teachers capped on me, like when my mom did talk to a teacher and they was capping on me, bro, like I'd be like, bro, that's not true. And my mom would be like, why are you talking?
They'd be like, why would they lie? Why would they lie?
Oh God, they'll be saying the most off the wall stuff. Never happened a day in my life, but
okay, so that's another good question. Do you think that like disciplining your child, you know, we're talking about whoopings and we're talking about, you know, the other route, which is communication. And when you're communicating with your child about something that's a disciplinary action, you know, you're about to put them on punishment, or you're talking to them, trying to teach them a lesson. Do you think that it should be a conversation, or do you think that it should be, you know, you voicing why they're wrong? Because I mean, we've all grown up where we felt, I mean, personally, I felt like, dang, like if I could just voice myself, you know, maybe you wouldn't feel this way. Do you think that when you guys have your children, that's a skill that you'll try and use?
Level to it, like you can voice your opinion stuff, but you can't be disrespectful. Like that was my
Of
issue.
course.
Like I would get disrespectful because you're not listening to me like that, and then that's when I would get in more trouble. So it's always kind of hard. It's like a disconnect.
Exactly.
So
and to this day,
but
my
yeah.
dad still says I have too much of a voice. Like he should
Yeah,
never
too
let
much
me have
mouth.
this much
I
of
got
a
too much
voice.
mouth.
Yeah, like the problem is I don't know when to stop a lot of times. Still, as a grown ass woman, but as a child, I was worse. Like I really led myself to them beatings and punishment and being grounded, all of the above. So
I was the opposite. Y'all probably wouldn't believe this.
we wouldn't.
I was quiet all the way up till I think my 8th grade year when I switched schools. After that, then it was like, oh, now he's a bad kid. And my parents, they didn't have no way of understanding how to deal with that. My little brother, on the other hand, oh yeah, he got, that was a different breed. They was like, what is this new behavior? And that they started to take that approach of, Mason, what's going on? Because you never did this before.
Mm.
And then once I started to have those conversations, like with my mom and stuff, like, yo, this is what's going on. The reason behind me getting the whooping was like, oh, that's why. But that was as I got older though.
like I can't necessarily say I was bad, but like I used to like to talk in class. I was always being funny, and like I would just get into dumb stuff. So I was bad. But once I got to like maybe 8th grade, I kind of was just more reserved. Like I was more worried about going to school, staying out the way, and just that. So for me, I never really got like growing up, I never really got the opportunity to like talk. Like it was don't talk back when I'm talking when I was a kid. And as a kid, you're not gonna, if somebody says don't talk back when you're talking, you're not gonna talk. You know what I'm saying? So as I got older and I was just more reserved, I just started getting to the point where I was like, I just don't care. Like, not saying I don't care, but like if whatever you're saying, I really don't have no say so in it. So I'm gonna let you say it.
And that's what I feel like when I have children. That's another thing I'm very grateful for my mom having that mindset. I've never gotten the lines blurred between me thinking she was my best friend, but I feel like growing up, I want to take that exact same approach because I feel like I have been very open book when it comes to my mom. I can tell her anything, but I don't tell her everything. Like if I really did something really, really bad, I know I can come to my mom. I might be able to predict her reaction, but at the end of the day, I know that she'll still love me. Like regardless, she'll still be able to be there for me. But I want to have that same approach for my children. Like I don't want to have to beat them every single time they do something. I want to be able to talk to them and understand what are you going through? Is it boys? Is it girls? Like what boy, whether I have a son or a daughter, like it doesn't matter the gender. But I want to be there, but not get it crossed that they think that, okay, they're getting too comfortable.
At what point is the child being too bad to just talk to them?
Like most of the time when I got whooped, it was more of like, it would start off as a conversation. I'll come downstairs and talk to my parents about something. And then it's like, my dad start getting loud, I'll start getting loud, and then I'll start saying something disrespectful, and then that's when I get whooped.
I do believe in whippings. I feel like I wouldn't have been the woman that I am without them. I was like spraying people with water. And I ended up falling right after, and that was my karma. And so I couldn't get whipped, but I was like, disciplined.
Do you believe that you would be the same person if you didn't get whooped? If you
I feel like I would be the same person because like the whoopings didn't do anything for me. Like the punishments hit harder. I really bounced back like nothing happened. That's why I'm not whooping my kids because I feel like I didn't learn anything. I learned nothing from those.
You were just bad.
That's a good point though. I will say that when you get put on punishment or when you get grounded, you just sitting there in silence. You actually get the time to think about what you did. He was like,
Hell
what?
no. My dumb ass was in there journaling about, I'm right. I did not. That's not what I was in my room thinking like, I'm never talking to her again.
And Jeanette, you were kind of saying earlier that like the main reason that you felt like punishment, didn't work for you was because you knew it was temporary. I mean, what would you say the longest amount of time you were on punishment was?
At least 3 to 5 months.
And you don't think you learned anything from that period?
I definitely never did whatever I did again. I mean, I know what I did, but it was deeper than a whooping. I just want to say this real quick. I think that the difference is my punishment, the grounding period, really did start after, like, in high school when I was able to really compartmentalize what am I doing wrong, because as a child, like, I'm not sitting there thinking, you know what, maybe I was, like, I'm sitting there boiling. I'm mad. I don't know how to control my anger.
You're not giving kids enough credit. When they go on punishment stuff,
Yeah.
they are mad, but if you do it long enough, they're going to start thinking of, like, okay, what did I do
they're
wrong?
not. No, they're not.
I'm talking about kids. I'm not talking about, like, middle schoolers. I don't always mean like
real question.
Ass beating, like a little pop. Sometimes you just gotta get popped right then and there. Like stop touching that.
But as me, like I was more scared of my dad. Like my mom said, "I'm gonna call your dad." That's when I was like, "Okay, let me stop what I'm doing." Because like even like the whoopings would work, but it's just like the fear of my dad like coming to whoop me. That's what scared me the most. So that's why I kind of like calmed down a little with my talking back and stuff. My mom, like me and her would go at it. I was not scared of my mom at all.
As somebody who's grown up, and I'm only going to speak for myself, like we had this conversation in the beginning. I was kind of with y'all, like I might physically discipline my children, but Amber makes a good point. I think children develop, and at a certain point, you might need to pop your child if they're trying to snatch something, or they're messing with the little sibling and they're hurting them. You need to stop that immediately. I can understand that. But past that, and when you're actually trying to teach your child techniques to use and grow, you need to show them that meditating on different situations and thinking about your mistakes, and that is the important thing you need to do. You need to be able to go through a situation where you make a mistake, and then you need to be able to realize and understand why that was a mistake. How many times would you say that you got, whooped in your life? Could you count? Probably not.
But I hear what you're saying, Cole, and I agree with that. But I think that's for like teenagers, not for kids, because I think it's more than just messing with your child. Like these kids are full out wilding out, yelling, screaming, flopping around, like not wearing your mask. Like that deserves a popping. Like
your kid is like jumping on the couch. You say, "Get down." They keep jumping. Get down. They keep jumping.
Like we're not even about to go to 3. Top, get down. I told you to get down. Like
I think it's unrealistic to say you would never hit your kids. Like like Cole said, it's a combination of both. If I'm driving and my kid jumping in the backseat, I'm not gonna like, it's too much. It's too much to be talking about. Like
11 and down, you are up for grabs. You can get a whooping. These kids are too sensitive. They need some whoopings. That's the problem.
I don't agree with that. That's what she was
The reason that they're bad is not because they're not getting whippings, is because they're not being disciplined at all. There's a difference. When their mom or whoever is talking to them, they're afraid. They're reserved. They're not doing anything to actually change that behavior. That is enabling. We just have unhealthy mechanisms that work.
We do.
But
Back in the day, my grandma, I remember my dad told me that she whooped him before he went to school. Like, this is what you did if you act out today. So like she would whoop him.
Parents
you said it
also are
worked though?
reserved
It did.
to discipline their children because of what happened to them. They're like, okay, I don't want to bring this onto them. But I think that's also something we got to break, because we can stop bringing things onto our children, but also still discipline our children. Like it has to be a combination, because there's some things that I wouldn't do, some techniques I wouldn't use on my kids that my parents used on me, but that doesn't mean that I'm just not going to use any of it at all. Like,
that's why I disagree with your point, Cole, where you were saying that. I'm not even gonna say really disagree with your point, but I do feel like our generation, I feel like they were raised with their parents being their friend. Your parents should be nurturing and they should care for you. You know what I'm saying?
Before you
Y'all
continue with this point, because I'm definitely interested, raise your hand if your parent raised you as your friend. You're talking about, like, I mean, there are people whose parents did raise them as their friend.
There's a lot of people like that, Cole. I don't
But
know.
there's a lot of
y'all.
people who aren't like that.
I don't know about y'all, but growing up in Memphis, I seen a lot of folks who just literally did what the fuck they want, and they knew that they wouldn't get in trouble. Like they would do something at school and get in trouble, and I'd be like, "Dang, bro, why you do that? Like you ain't gonna get in trouble or nothing." They'd be like, "I don't, my mama don't care." Of course, your parents should be nurturing, understanding, and they should care for you. But your parent also has to be an authority figure in the household. You have to understand that your parent is, if you do mess up, you need to be disciplined.
Still fear in our kids a little bit.
I think we do.
But you can instill fear mentally. Like it could be threats, or it could be like, I'm gonna take you to the bathroom, like stuff like that. But it doesn't have to be physical, you know?
I don't feel like everything, the point of it has to be physical. Like, oh, now, I'm just angry, so now I'm going to get physical. But it's just like, some things are like, when you see children say they hate their parents, that's just something that I feel like if I've said that, my parents would get physical with me.
They do.
Because it goes deeper. Like, what do you mean you hate me? I have a roof over my head. I'm blessed beyond measures, and I have the audacity to say that. Like, I don't think it's just, I feel like some things are deeper. That's why it goes like,
I mean, I work with children on a day-to-day. So like I have children who honestly get frustrated with me and will say things like that to me and not mean it at all. I've never put my hands on, I mean, obviously I'm not their parent, but
right.
I've never put my hands on those children, and we've worked past that.
But another thing is, you like kids. I don't even like kids. So.
Yeah, I think that if you're gonna have kids, then you're gonna have to be patient. And I think that if your child says, I hate you, you have to unpack that. If you do whoop your child after they say they hate you, they might not say it again. But that doesn't mean that they don't have those feelings.
If you was disrespectful before, I'm not unpacking anything.
I think, growing up, I did get whippings, right? And did they have an impact on me? Yes. But I feel like they really just put fear in me. It wasn't just, yes, it was discipline, but it was like more fear, like, oh, if I do this, I'm gonna just, like get beat, or let me find another way to do it so that, I could get away from that whipping. And by the time I got into high school, I didn't get whippings anymore, nor did I see like my dad often. So when I got into a different type of parenting style, then I got to see like how people raise their kids without whipping. And did I rebel? Of course. But once I was in a age limit where I felt like I could think for myself, I was like, yeah, like I was really acting up, but this is how I should have been raised. Like, so you get to a point where you're like, okay, now I'm starting to think why people don't whip their kids, and then you still become the woman you're supposed to be or the guy you're supposed to be. So, I mean, it could be a hit or miss when it comes to like whipping your kids, because then you might just make them like abusive, because there's a line between abuse and beating.
Of course, I don't feel like any of us have said anything that's led to the notion of us being abusive. And I also feel like another thing that we've all come to an agreement is we are going to make sure that we're having conversations in general to understand if we are beating our kids, if we were on that side, why they're about to get that beating and why they will get another one if they continue to do what they're doing.
It's only so many conversations you could have with a
Right.
kid. Like,
Right.
I'm
I
just-
feel like
okay,
that
look,
too.
I'll take that. I'll
Yeah.
sit down and talk with them, trying to unpack their feelings. Yeah. But if they keep doing it, you're getting whooped. Like, I'm not about to keep sitting down and talking to you. Like, you obviously don't respect me as a authority figure. So
Right.
That
It's like,
reminds me
I
of
feel
that
like-
show with the British nanny. Like, they were beating their parents. Like, you think I'm gonna let you beat me? And you're not about to get
Oh
back
my
in
God.
public.
Now that you guys are older, do you guys understand why your parents whooped you or
No.
no?
yeah.
Yes.
Wait, yes, because like
Yes.
it's certain situations. Like for example, when I was younger, my elderly grandma, I got mad at her. I went in her room, ripped everything off her bed, and my mama came over and whooped my. So I was like, now that I'm old, I'm like, okay, yeah.
I live in a male-dominated household. I have 3 brothers. And you know what I'm saying? I have a younger brother and I have an older brother. And I have another brother as well. But I have a 2-parent household. And there was no conversation. There was no talking to Maddie at all. Maddie, they be like, Maddie, why you do that? Because I wanted to. Why you brush the teacher's hand off your shoulder? Because I wanted to. She was touching me, mama. And I believe to say this, like, there's times where there's no conversation needed. Also, in my
None.
household, there is a reason why, like, my dad was there to show dominance. We got a woman to show you not gonna walk over here. You ain't gonna walk over your mother, and you damn sure ain't gonna walk over me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what
Yup.
I'm in. This is a house of men.
Yep.
This is
True.
bringing up men. And
Yeah.
you protect this woman right here, and you do not defy me. We in the Black community, we struggle in the single parent household. During
There
this
you
whole
go.
time, we have heard my parents, my mom, my dad. It was never as both. It was never as joints. So I feel like a lot of this do derive from that because your mom is now supposed to be the nurturer and the disciplinarian.
I have a 10-year-old sister, so I'm still literally watching a child grow up right before
But look,
my sister is being raised completely opposite than I was.
yes.
So I see
yes.
a lot of things that are way more loose in my household that I would have never been able to get away with growing up, like ever. I don't know how that's going to turn out. She's not grown yet, but I mean, looking at how my middle brother was raised, a lot of that stuff isn't working out right now. The way that they're taking the approach they're using on her, looking at him, it's not working out.
Me and you can't talk. You couldn't talk to Leroy growing up. He was the disciplinarian. You couldn't talk to him. You could talk to moms. That was it. However, growing up now, my little brother, he has the ability to talk to my dad. I didn't get to talk to my dad till I was in college. I feel like there's certain things, like, and there's certain tiers of times where we should be able to be like, all right, he get a pop on the wrist, or he get a flip or something like that. And then there's punishment or of that nature. But I didn't understand punishment. You're gonna take this for a couple of days, it's about to be over.
The big thing that I'm trying to stress is like, yes, I'm here with you that children do need to be disciplined. And, you know, if it's an extreme measure, you know, Darius, you can't be messing with your grandma. So I can understand that. But 9 out of 10 times, I don't think that we should take it there. I mean, Mason, like you were saying with your brother, like the fact that he can voice himself in front of your father, like, I mean, I don't mean that being your family's business, but I think that that's something you should have been afforded too. Like, I think that the power of speaking and communicating is not the only solution. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't discipline your children. I'm not saying that you should just let them walk around and just do whatever they want to do. What I'm saying is that we need to be able to acknowledge the fact that certain things that happen to us shouldn't move forward. And there are going to be times where we as parents are going to get frustrated and we might want to do what I have to do. But take that second step to be like, is this the method that I should use? Because it's not always. I know that everybody here can think back to a time where they got whooped, where they really feel like they shouldn't have. We should be able to identify that that's not the best method. It might work, and sometimes it might not be necessary. But that's almost a last resort.
I think it also, we have to say that having two parents in a household definitely makes a huge difference in how you discipline your kids and what they're going to get out of it. Because when you have a single household and you have, you know, a dad or a mom that's trying to be a nurturer and a discipliner, that could be a lot. I didn't have both of my parents at the same time to discipline me. I had 10 years with my mom and 10 years with my dad. So it's like, I got the best of both worlds, but in 2 different times. So I think that definitely did make a difference in, how you see disciplining being for my kids.
So my question is kind of like an example. So you're at church, right? And you have 2 kids. One is falling out, screaming, crying, like doing the most. And the other kid is like sitting there, listening to the pastor, drawing, whatever. Do you beat that kid in front of the other kid, or do you just take them to the bathroom? Like, what do you do to discipline them?
You pinch him so hard that he stops.
Okay, I'm gonna take it to the bathroom, and that's fine. But if they keep like still doing it, like not listening to me, then I'm gonna take it to the bathroom.
It's the look. They're like if they give you that look, you know, you know what that means. I think it also reflects on people's like patience level. Like some parents just, aren't ready to deal with, are not consistent, that are just really bad because they have stuff to figure out in their own growth.
I don't think patience really, like as far as Amber's example, I don't think that's really patience. It's just kind of like you in here acting a fool in church
It's
while
the
the pastor trying to
principle.
teach. Right. It's like you're not supposed to
know
be
how
doing
to
this,
act
but you
as a
still doing it.
You're doing all this talking, like, and they're still wilding out at church.
Right.
What is going on? But I think that also another thing for me, and I'm just saying because one, I'm very young, but I don't have a lot of patience, not just with kids, but also adults. So I feel like that says a lot. I was for a long time, I didn't want to have kids at all. Like I couldn't even imagine myself with kids. I was like, I can't do it. I don't like kids. Now I've finally come to the realization that, okay, kids are probably, because I've also come from a 2-parent household where I see marriage in my future, but for a long time I didn't see kids. Now I've finally come to the point where I do see kids in my future. It's going to definitely be a learning process on how to discipline them, knowing that I really have no patience. Like I'm not going to sit here and lie to myself and be like, I'm going to do this, this, and that. I don't know what I'm going to do. Both my parents have kind of, put out different methods on each child. And they still have a child growing up, and they're still throwing out new methods. Every other day, she's talking about something she saw on Oprah or something else, and it's just something new. So I think that for me, like saying what I'm going to do now might not be the thing that I'm going to do in the future. I do think that I'll have whoopings in the future. I don't know if it'll be as intense as everybody's like hyping it up, but I do think that that's going to be something that's popular.
So closing that all together, those who was in the beginning, who was, I'm going to physically discipline my children. Is there a point after the discussion where you changed, or are you still at the same?
I definitely heard, because we've actually had this discussion off camera before too. That was kind of just like ballpark. But I definitely heard a lot more and absorbed a lot more from what Cole and Amber were saying today. I don't know if I'll remember it 20 years from now, 10 years, but I hear it. I definitely hear it. I think that conversation is something that should probably be in the forefront before anything else. But that's where I'm going to start because it's not going to be too much talking. I know that about me.
Yeah, I feel like it just really depends on the child. Like, because I know, like, I have cousins who are very, like, soft-spoken, and I have cousins who are very loud and energetic. So it does depend on, like, the child. But I am going to, like Cole and Amber were saying, I'm going to incorporate those different type of learning styles. But if my child still just don't get it,
that's what I'm saying. You can't be talking all day. Like
it's always so much talking.
Darius? I think we've lost Darius. We lost Darius. He wanted to
Everybody hit the pose with him.
Oh,
everybody.
I was one of the ones that believed in disciplining your child by beating or whooping them. I'm sorry. I believe that I'm still going with my kids, but definitely listen to Cole and Amber. Like I said from the beginning, I'm going to effectively communicate with my children at the same time. And I also believe in like different forms of discipline besides like whooping your kids. Like I'm gonna have my kids holding books, sitting on walls. So my kids gonna be disciplined, but
wait, we didn't talk about all that.
I'm going to try to effectively communicate with my kids first.
Darius?
Go ahead, Yordi.
For me personally, I would have to say I'm like 50-50 now. I came into this with like the idea of like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna whip my kids. But I think I've gotten the chance to kind of see what Amber and Cole are trying to say, what it means not to do it and still discipline your kids. I don't know if that will change by the time I do have children, but right now I'm at 50-50. But I think we'll get the 100% thinking of how we're going to discipline our children by the time we have them. So I'm excited for that.
In the beginning, I was with everybody on, yeah, I would with my children, but I still think I'm still there somewhat. But I think what Amber said really stuck with me, because we know that things are effective doesn't mean that we should do them. You know what I'm saying? There are other things that might be just as effective that we should try out.
Darius?
Dang, man, we had
back.
Well, guys, that is the end of the episode. Let us know what you think in the comments below.
Cool.
Like what you
Subscribe, comment.